So, as you've likely heard by now, over the second quarter-ish of 2018, miraculously, bizarrely, awesomely, Guild Wars 1 has been getting updates again. So I've done several videos on the recent developments from the GW1 team, which seems to be just one or two guys over at ArenaNet. And, well, I've waited a bit now till the end of June to give you guys another update. There have been several more streaming-related patches that have gone in to basically bring this game more up to the 2018 standard, including even more graphical improvements piled on top of the old ones. So you can find in the description links to the previous videos to keep yourself completely up to date if you've missed them, or follow along and I will talk to you guys about, very happily too, what's going on with Guild Wars 1. I'm shooting this video as well, by the way, at the location of Corner, which is where the equivalent Guild Wars 2 big updates are currently going on, except we're slightly off on the edge. We're at a place called Camp Hojanu, in my opinion, one of the rarer, more easily forgotten areas from the original game, and we'll demo all the cool new graphical stuff around here. I figure, hey, why not? So, in reverse order, the most recent updates first, and going backwards to some of the older ones from earlier in the month, let's talk about what's going on. First of all, as you can see here, nothing too interesting. Fixed a client crash issue for Windows XP, fixed an issue preventing some Windows XP users from logging in, and more changes to administrator privileges, which we heard earlier in the month as well with one of the other updates. So these three things, I guess, are interesting in that it is a very old game, and XP is one of the main platforms that people are supposed to be playing it on, and I guess there's a few people out there who still hang around with Guild Wars 1 on their XP machines, and they get that maintenance. Possibly more interesting for the rest of the community, though, the Minion Dialogue will now display based on characters and maintain size and placement. So, Minion Dialogue, you might wonder, what is that? Well, it's a very little known element of the Guild Wars 1 UI. I've just popped it open here, Minions, this panel here, with the Y key, I think is the default bind. And what this does is it essentially emulates a second party window for you for any build that has significant numbers of allied minions with it. So, here, I do have Comfort Animal with me, but I don't think my character has a pet. We'll go out into the Dejarin estate here and see. But if you're playing like a Minion Monster, if you're playing a Ritualist, I do have a pet here. Okay, so pets don't count because they're obviously already in our party window down here. But if you are summoning minions and things, they'll appear in this list and you can monitor their health from this. It's particularly nice if you're still playing that kind of Necro who's casting lots of Death Novas and buffs on the minions themselves, and to just monitor things. Obviously, we do get the active effect on our skill bars, telling us how many minions we control. This lets you see exactly how much health they are when you next want to pump their health up or whatever. A lot of people didn't use this, but now the devs have done lots of little updates to it that just sort of bring it into the game a bit more. So displays per character, I think the idea is it will remember which characters you care about having it on. And also it now goes through loading screens too. That's another patch note which will come up in a second. But you see, I had it open, I walked back into the camp, the outpost here, and I still have the minion window up. Just no minions to speak about. So yeah, it just got the updates that I remember back when I used to play a lot, and especially those kinds of builds. This was an annoying menu because it would disappear so easily, it wouldn't remember its last position and all that stuff. Now it actually does, and it feels more fully integrated into the UI. So anyone who is coming back to the game, well, you can have fun with that. Moving on very quickly so that we can get to the juicier stuff. They have a general section of patch notes. Number 1 is the minion panel remaining open, as I've discussed. Number 2 is fix the die panel camera. So, dying in Guild Wars 1. We haven't seen this for a while. Let's go back to my bank of yesteryear. And here, I guess I have 95. In fact, let's get our 250 vials of Sadie's dye, the pink dye, and we'll use it. So we're going to double click. We'll go to like our chest piece here. And so this is the dyeing menu. And they say they fixed the camera. Here's how the camera's working right now. I've got to admit, I cannot remember what was actually broken or off about the dying camera, but there you have it. So you can use it there. And just for those Guild Wars 2 fans who might be watching this, let's as well dye our weapons, since that's something that the second game doesn't have. There we go. We'll put a bit of pink dye on our site there. So, yes, they've got that. Next is a section here about login stuff. Made improvements to help with login issues. They're very non-specific. Fixed a client crash when trying to log in. Added a new error code, 248, for when the game is unable to initialize the login system. And they say this is usually a result of antivirus or incompatible operating systems. I believe that that is an error Guild Wars 2 has. And finally, let's get on with the graphics. So check this out. New, very recently, graphics added an ultra shadow setting. So we're going to demonstrate this here at the Henchman, because I think that this is a good place to go to. And let's have a look in our inventory. Now, we have shadows here, just as you have with Guild Wars 2. And what you'll see is you've got off, where below the feet of all these characters, you basically just get this slight, like, black ring down there that marks sort of near their feet, but isn't much else. That's off. When we turn it to low, I think we get more of these circles appear, maybe. When we go to medium, perhaps even more, maybe someone over there. When we go to high, we should see that they change, and they're no longer in ill-defined things, but they've actually become proper shadows. And indeed, at my feet as well, you can see something similar here, underneath. In fact, if I take my leggings off, this will probably be easier to see. So there you go. And then lastly, we now have Ultra. So this was newly added. Guild Wars 2 has an Ultra setting. And I think that their upgrade for the Ultra in Guild Wars 1 is about the same as what the second game does. They describe it as this: doubling the distance, doubling the resolution, and quadrupling the amount of dynamic shadows that the game will render. So I pop this on, and you'll see, once again, it fully reloads all of our shadows. At my resolution, which is 2560 by 1440, I don't really see too much of a difference with the higher resolution, to be perfectly honest. But definitely, if we stand quite far away now, you'll see that we get the nice shadows even at a reasonable distance when we're all the way up on Ultra. So how much this practically affects the game, especially compared to some of the other new graphics updates that they've done recently, I honestly couldn't really tell you. I don't think it means that much. Maybe there are some specific areas where it will mean a lot. Again, speaking of minions, if you are playing a party composition that has a ton of things that spawn like that, maybe the new Ultra setting will mean that all of them are running the shadows too, and it shouldn't cost any real frames for us these days with contemporary hardware. But that's the idea. It sounds probably more exciting on the patch note than it is, but I wanted to show it off. If you feel I'm being a Debbie Downer, please feel free in the comments to correct me and as to why, because I'd love to see this used in its full capacity. Probably places and factions would be a good area, since there's so many heroes and henchies standing around in all the outposts, and you get like the 16 party missions and all that kind of good stuff. All right, let's re-equip our legs as well. So, yes, that's the shadows. Moving on, they do have other graphics changes. This one here, the fog/haze, when using the advanced graphics options, have been slightly modified, they say. So, here, I'm not actually using advanced just yet. This is what we thoroughly covered in the other videos. But what this does is it pushes the view distance out enormously. So, when we click this, we can see suddenly all the way over to that rock over there. You can see lots of other rocks way out in the distance. And it generally pushes things out a lot. I did do quite a bit of testing with this after the videos. I talked to you guys about it. And I was a little disappointed with this option, in that some places in the game, fog is supposed to be quite close to you. So here in the Nightfall campaign, the end game Domain of Anguish stuff, one of the areas is called the Ravenheart Gloom, and its whole theme is it's supposed to be really dark and oppressive. You're not supposed to see very far, and yet the new advanced option was kind of pushing that view distance out and making it less immersive than it originally was. I mean, people kind of mess with that anyway by fiddling around with full screen gamma and whatnot, but I was a bit disappointed with that. They're non-specific about what they've changed here. They just say slightly modified. Perhaps they've gone through with a finer comb and been more careful about where they draw the fog in or out. The truth is that each outpost and map in Guild Wars 2 has a different defined fog value. Sometimes it's very close, sometimes it's further away. Echo Vowed Forest, for example, you get really dramatic changes with the advanced option, because back when factions came out, they were kind of very heavy with the fog to create this ambience, and maybe to save people's frames, because so much was going on in terms of rendering all the big trees and leaves and foliage everywhere. So I wonder whether that is a map-specific thing they've changed, or there might be another comment about that on Reddit somewhere, but there you have it. And then lastly, for this update to graphic stuff, they say the game client now restarts properly into windowed full screen when switching from full screen to windowed full screen. Not very fun. but useful nonetheless. This would have been the kind of thing that people realized was going on. Window full screen obviously being a new feature for Guild Wars 1, and they've patched in that bit of maintenance there. Moving on, there are some other tweaks. They say perform server maintenance, not too interesting. Loading screen fade has been sped up slightly. I actually don't like this update. So, if you guys are unfamiliar with this, because it's been a while since you played the game, if we go all the way north up to Vabi, let's go to the Basalt Grotto, an old favourite of mine. When we double-click to travel here, we'll get the loading screen, and it will whiz by very fast. But as we transition out of this Vabi loading screen, you see that fade there, that subtle like movement into the actual game? They've dropped that down quite a lot. I liked it when it was slower. I thought it looked much more flavorful. I was even kind of hoping that the Guild Wars 2 devs would look at that good work they'd done here in the original and, you know, maybe slow down the sequels ones. But I guess they've now sped it up in an effort to unify the two experiences. It's such a minor thing, but it's there in the patch notes, so I thought we'd talk about it. Moving on, we have this block of the patch notes, which is very kind of background stuff, which isn't, I don't really have too much to add on. But the game client will no longer increase CPU usage while in the background. I found a lot of games have that issue, but there you go. This also improves the dash FPS option CPU usage, and the installer has been improved when uninstalling and reinstalling to another location, which presumably was bugged somehow. Here's something interesting you guys are going to really love, and it's going to require me to go to another character. So, here I am in Pre-Searing Ascalon on my El Doa, my level 20 Ranger/Monk. And the patch is this, that the Lakeside County Gate to the Northlands will stay open twice as long when its lever is activated. Alright, a lot of you will be scratching your head wondering what this means. This basically gets rid of gate monkeys for pre-searing. I know it's been a lot of years, but a ton of people are still in pre. And one of the earliest quests that this game ever throws you, something that Guild Wars 2 has never really done, is they teach you how to play co-op by requiring you to have a party member with you to go to one of the maps, the Northlands, the higher level map here in Pre-Searing Ascalon. So the idea is you both walk out, it's a bit of a walk up here. You both walk out towards a gate that runs at the north of Lakeside County. One of you has to pull the lever on top, which opens a door below that your friend then walks through before the gate quickly closes again. And it was a really elegant mechanic that for all these years, just the physical timing of that gate closing too fast for one person to be able to pull the lever and run around has meant you need two people for all these years to get through. And it's really smart design. It gets people encouraged to talking to one another, to making friends very early in the game, which I really think gamers need to be pushed to do in MMOs. But also, it teaches people a fundamental aspect of Guild Wars 1, which is that the second a single person goes through a zone portal, the entire party moves with them, which is kind of a nuanced, weird thing to wrap your head around, but this quest very perfectly demonstrated. Well, it's 2018. People don't need to learn that anymore. There's probably not too many totally new people coming to Guild Wars 1 these days, and if they are, then they probably already have people in mind they want to play with. So, they've now doubled the length of time that the door stays open, so I alone can hit the lever on my character, and I can run. I still have to be kind of quick because the gate will close, but I can just about make it in time. And now I can wander through, even though this last gate is visually shut here, I can wander through and go to the Northlands on my own. And there you have it. So it's pretty nice. I do lament the loss of the old idea and the old design, but I mean the quest is still there, and people will presumably still try stuff like that. But that's the answer to people who have had to deal with even bot characters that open gates for them. Those bots are now no longer needed, and I know that that's a piece of quality of life that a lot of pre-searing players have been asking for, so there they get it. It continues to be quite exciting as well, though, beyond this, maybe for more players as well. Let's look at more graphical new things. There's new camera controls. Once again, this is in line with making Guild Wars 2 like Guild Wars 1. If we go out of the graphics tab now and over to General, you'll notice that we have our damage text size slider. This isn't in the sequel, for what it's worth. But now check it out. There's a new one, Field of View. This was not in Guild Wars 1 until very recently. This wasn't even in Guild Wars 2 until a post-release patch. Here it is. So, as we move the box, in the middle is default. And as we move the box up, we increase our field of view. We can see more around us. All the way up to what I assume is 90 at max. I don't actually know what the numbers are. Maybe it's 100, 110. Yeah, so you can now get a much higher field of view. This is very, very good in terms of rendering more of the game, getting more on the screen. You're basically going to find all players that give a damn, really, unless you really hate the kind of fisheye effect. Most of us are going to play with an FoV, if not max, quite high. Just so that you can fit more on the screen and you get more out of the pretty environments that the devs have offered for us. It's also kind of nice in that Guild Wars 1, you've always been able to go first person, but when you play first person with quite a restrictive FOV, it can feel quite cluttered in, people might not enjoy it. When I started on YouTube, I was doing a series covering this game where I went first person a lot, and I always had a lot of people complaining in the comments saying, oh, I don't really like it too much. With a higher FOV, it's much more viable to play like this now. And, well, I think that it's been, I wouldn't say long overdue, but something I'm definitely really happy to see. We can even, while they're at it, shrink the FOV, which I guess for practical purposes is not so useful, but maybe better for screenshot sniping, things of that nature, if you really care to do that sort of stuff. So they give you the control, and this is basically, yeah, just what you can do in Guild Wars 2, now you can do in Guild Wars 1 also. I started this video with it on half, but I kind of want to have it maxed out now. And let's go back to the area that we started this video at to show you the difference. So here we are at Camp Hojanu again, and this is with the much higher field of view. So smaller field of view, and then higher. The one thing I have noticed is in Guild Wars 2, while I move it like this, it would dynamically bring in and out the FOV just as I move the box. In Guild Wars 1, the way that they've coded it is you actually have to release the click for it to happen. It's a minor thing, but a tiny little observation I made because I'm a bit of a nerd for this stuff. So there you go. We've got that. Moving on, you may also have cheekily noticed there is a camera rotation speed option. This never existed before, and they've added this. I think this even had a slight update as well. So I still like the default, and I would change my mouse settings if I really cared for anything else. But yeah, you can mess with the camera rotation speed. Again, a Guild Wars 2 thing. Come to the original game here. They say, moving on, still good stuff coming. Slightly increase the responsiveness of the camera's rotation. I can't say that I've really felt that. Or maybe I have, and the game just feels a little bit better than I remember it felt before. It feels pretty smooth and responsive, but I never had any issues with it not feeling smooth and responsive before. So I guess that's kind of up to you guys how you feel on that one. But here, definitely I have felt a difference. The camera maximum zoom out distance has been slightly increased. So this is one of those things where, depending on the mission you're playing, the content you're playing, this can actually be really kind of nice. People who have been using Guild Wars Toolbox for the middle years before development came back to this game have been able to completely disconnect the camera and do whatever they like with it. So maybe the Guild Wars 2 devs saw that functionality and thought, wow, that's really nice. The game feels really interesting. So they've done it here in the natively for the game now. And as you can see, this is not Toolbox or anything. This is just what Guild Wars 1 is like. I can zoom out massively. My party seems really small. This is really one of those dangerous almost MMO things where you can just make it feel like everything on screen is just an ant and all immersion is lost and all detail is lost and it's just about the UI and just minor movement like this. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of people will enjoy playing like this, and it will give you a much different sense of the maps. You can kind of, in combination with all the other graphics updates, playing on a higher FOV and now going through it all, you can pull a lot more out of the environment you probably were before. I'm really curious about places like Farron of the First City, or anywhere that's sort of a semi-interior, maybe the Undercity in Kaineng, how it feels when you pull the camera out really far, if you can clip it into objects that the devs weren't thinking about when it was originally developed. But yeah, nice quality of life, and you're seeing it here. They say slightly in the patch notes, but this feels like a substantial difference to me. With the camera change, there's probably not so much crazy interesting for you guys to see, but I will run through here. First of all, chat changes. Added an option to show chat timestamps for chat log entries. Well, again, a Guild Wars 2 thing, and we're seeing that here. Whispers will no longer be lost while loading maps or switching characters. I didn't realize that whispers could actually be lost if someone messaged you perfectly in the middle of the loading screen. Or if I ever did know about that, it was for a brief window right when I started playing this game, because I've never really had big problems with the loading screen times. But they'll no longer be lost, and again, I'm sure that they're just bringing that across. Next, they say the chat log has been doubled, and the chat log will no longer clear on map change or switching characters. Which is also good. I can't even really imagine why back when the game first came out they'd want it to clear when swapping instances, but there you have it. Next, they have a bit of a block about two-factor authentication. They say that the game now displays the correct error when trying to log in from an unauthorized network. They say command line parameters new auth and old auth are now ignored, and that two-factor authentication, they've added a dialog window in the login screen to enter the two-factor authentication for your login session. I haven't seen that, I don't think, because I haven't been prompted with it, because I haven't played Guild Wars from a strange network since this update. But that might look vaguely interesting, I don't know. And then really, the last couple of things, they say that they fixed a bug that would result in UI customization and key binding to be reset to defaults. And on Wiki, it has been noted, this was not noted by the devs, it's just players noted and then put it on the Wiki, that now you can double-click a name and it will select the player if they are in the same district. I guess that means from your friends list. So if you're in the same place, then once you've got them targeted, obviously you can press the space bar and you'll be able to run over to them and follow them around. And that's just a nice little bit of quality of life as well. So there you go. A slew of new Guild Wars 1 updates. That's not everything I have to say about it, though. For a while, keep an eye on the channel because there was the big Ask Me Anything forum AFC, where all the devs got together and talked about their old memories of making this game and answering questions about strange and mysterious things we haven't seen. So I can't wait to get to that. I still have to do that with you all guys, and there will be another video on it soon. I was going to kind of bundle it all in together, but there was so much to say for patch notes, I figured I would run through this first. I'm really happy to be able to do more Guild Wars 1 videos. I will also point out that there is a sale for Guild Wars 1 on Steam right now. The game is available on Steam, but it's super rare that Guild Wars ever goes on sale. So you might want to pick it up. And I don't tell you that because I have some kind of referral link. There's kind of a weird thing with the Guild Wars community now where people only want to tell you the game's on sale just so they can push their referral links. I don't have a referral link or anything like that. I tell you that because I'm a fan of Guild Wars 1 and you quite often can't get it as cheap as you probably should. So now's one of the best times to. It's on Steam. I don't really have a link, but just go to Steam, type Guild Wars, you'll find it there, and you can tuck in and enjoy that until I think the Steam summer sale's over is when it ends. So yeah, bear that in mind. If you want to buy it for a friend who you haven't quite been able to convince to get into the game, maybe now's the opportunity. There you have it, guys. Thanks very much for watching. I'll keep you in the loop if the devs keep doing stuff, and I'll see you all next time.